I built an Acheron themed PC. I recently redid my content creation setup and got it to where I'm really liking it, but my old PC just doesn't really seem to fit the vibe anymore. I had to sell my original gaming and streaming PC a couple years back before we moved to Sweden, and when we got here, I just kind of got the pieces and parts that I could get quickly to build a PC fast as soon as we got to Sweden, so I'd have as little interruption in my content creation and streaming as possible, and it worked for now, but it's time for an upgrade. Now, I love hoyoverse games, and I especially love Acheron and honkaistarrail. From the first time I saw her drip marketing, I knew I had to pull for her. I knew I was gonna main her. She never leaves my team in Star Rail, so I think it's only fitting that we make an Acheron themed PC. Now this upgrade is strictly cosmetic. I'm just migrating all the pieces from my old build over to a new case and adding some aesthetic upgrades, but even with just an aesthetic upgrade, the difference is massive. Now, to help out with this overhaul, I reached out to a couple of different brands to see if they'd be interested in partnering up and supplying some parts for me, and they came through in a huge way. Height sent me over their Height Y40, which is such an aesthetic case. It has these huge glass panels on it that really show off the inside of the build. It has a very minimal front panel, so it doesn't take up much space at all and doesn't detract from the build or the look or the feel. And the front panel, the side panel, the top panel, all the panels, they just pop off, and it's super easy to pop them on and off, no screws or anything. So it makes building in this thing a freaking dream. And when they shipped this thing to me, it was packed well. It took me a while to get this thing out of the box, and I had to destroy the box to get it out, which is not a bad thing at all. I mean, I love the fact that it was so well secured and it got to me safe and sound, especially with the huge glass panels on it. There was no issues at all. And now with these huge glass panels, I knew I had to do something to really make it an Acheron themed PC, and that's where cardboard cutout standees comes in. Now they typically specialize in cardboard cutouts or huge wall vinyls, but when I let them know about my build idea, they were more than happy to supply custom vinyls for the PC case itself. All I had to do was send over the images and the sizes, and they took care of the rest. I'm really happy with the image quality of these vinyls, and even though they're printed on a white background, it was super easy just to use an X-Acto knife and trim out everything that I needed to, trim away the borders, and make it so it's gonna go right on the case and you can still have that glass behind the case. It looks really clean, it looks really sharp, although I've got to say, after 2 hours of sitting there and cutting through these things with an X-Acto knife, I couldn't feel my pointer finger for like a week. Now, once I had the vinyls all cut out, it was super easy just to put them down exactly where I wanted them on the PC case, although in retrospect, I probably shouldn't have taken the whole backing off of the vinyl first and then tried to put it on, since it kept like sticking where I didn't want it to stick and I had to peel it up and put it down. Luckily, these are really good quality vinyls, so if I kept peeling it up and putting it back down, it was no issue. It didn't stick any less, and I was able to position it exactly where I wanted it with a little bit of effort. Now, the splash art of Acheron on the side panel looks so good, and her red form on the front panel is just a chef's kiss. And I even put a little chibi Acheron on that backside panel, and even though no one's really going to see it, and I'm probably not even going to see it, I know it's there, and that's what matters. Now, when I put the front panel decal on, I did have to trim it a little bit just to make sure it would fit perfectly, but it was no problem. I just threw it on, trim the sides up, super easy, looks super good. Now the final aesthetic piece came from Reaper Cable. Their cable extensions really help to tie everything together from the outside of the case to the inside of the case, and these custom white and red cable extensions just fit Acheron so well. Not only do they add that nice pop of color to the build, they also make it so there's less cables to manage and to actually have showing within the build itself, which is just going to make a much cleaner look. I mean, it's just so good. And the fact that they have built-in cable combs to keep those cables all nice and lined up in the build so they're not going everywhere, it's just, I mean, they think of everything. Now that I had all the components and the case was looking all pretty, it was time to get to building. And I headed over to my brother-in-law's house for this, since he loves building PCs. He does it all the time. So he has all the tools, the thermal paste, the air duster. He had everything we needed over there. And we needed that air duster. Let me tell you, I thought I kept up okay with cleaning out my old PC, but I was wrong. This thing was dusty, and everything that we took out of the old PC as we were disassembling, we had to take out to the balcony and spray off with that air duster to make sure that it was as clean as possible going into the new rig. We got everything unhooked, got everything pulled out, took off the AIO, the motherboard, cleaned up the old thermal paste off of that, and we were left with this just super dusty shell of an old PC case, and that just got pushed off to the side. Now, the Height Y40 comes with 2 fans, comes with one in the back and one in the bottom. The one in the bottom stayed, but the one in the back I took off to replace with an RGB fan from the old case, but the RGB didn't work on any of the 3 fans I took off of the old case, and I think that's because the old case had a built-in RGB controller, so it didn't have like its own RGB controller to control the RGB of these fans. I think that's how it works. If I'm wrong, and maybe I just did something wrong, leave me a comment and please educate me, because I'd love the RGB to work on these, but it just doesn't. Now, the Height Y40 allows you to vertically mount your GPU because it comes with a riser cable that you need to do that, which is super cool. So we went ahead and took out that riser cable for now just to make it easier to get everything in, and then we'll reinstall that later when we're ready to put in the GPU. Again, we cleaned up all the old thermal paste off the motherboard, we got it put in, and we got it screwed down nice and secured. Now, the wiring is always the most nerve-wracking part of any PC build, I feel, especially the front panel connectors, because they're just so small, and I'm just worried that I'm gonna like bend or break one of the pins, but luckily everything went great. We got it all put in, no issues at all. We got the Reaper cables put in, and that's when I really started to get excited about this build because they just look so freaking cool in the case. We ended up having to shift the RAM from the 1st and the 3rd slot over to the 2nd and the 4th slot to accommodate the AIO better. And I was reading that I guess you're supposed to just have the RAM in the 2nd and 4th slot if you only have 2 sticks of RAM. No one told me that. It's just been sitting in the 1st and 3rd slot. So we got that fixed. We got the AIO put in. Also, I thought that my AIO was just installed upside down on my last PC, but apparently you can just rotate the face of the AIO. So I've been sitting here looking at an upside down face for 2 years thinking, man, I did that wrong. I also thought that my AIO didn't have RGB fans, and I just bought the one without RGB fans, which doesn't sound like something I would do. But apparently I just didn't hook up the RGB last time. So we did that this time. So we got RGB on the AIO now after 2 years. It was better late than never. And once we had everything hooked up, it was time to reinstall the riser cable for the GPU, get the GPU vertically mounted, and man, does a vertically mounted GPU look nice. Highly recommend. And now we got everything on the front looking all nice. But we don't need to look at the back. No, you don't need to go, but there's nothing to see in the back. All the cables are perfectly managed. Don't look back there, okay? They're all good. Just don't check. Okay, it's fine. The only thing left to do was to plug it in, cross our fingers, and it worked. It booted up on the first try. Oh, it's such a good feeling when that happens. We love that for us. Now, since the old RGB fans weren't working properly, I did throw in a magnetic addressable RGB strip up at the top of the case just to give it a little bit more lighting inside until I can get some fans that actually have RGB or figure out how to get these RGB fans to work. But with the light, I'm not sure if I like the white, the purple, or the red better. Let me know in the comments down below which one you guys like the best. Right now it's sitting on red. I think I really like that actually. But I am so happy with how this thing turned out. It looks so much nicer sitting on my desk. The vibe just is immaculate, and I can just look over at Acheron anytime I want now, which is just an added bonus, and we love that so much for us. Again, a huge shout out to Height, to Cardboard Cutout Standees, and to Reaper Cable for hooking it up with this build. If there's anything that you guys want to check out from them or just want more information about them, I'll put all their links down in the description below. Thanks for sticking around to the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Make sure you subscribe, leave a like if you liked it, and we'll see you in the next one. Until next time, you stay legendary. And remember, the sun will rise, and we will try again. May this journey lead us starward. Peace out.